There is the man.
Yes, sir.
What's going on, my brother?
Man, ain't nothing much, man. Ain't nothing much, man. Just making it do what it do, man.
That's what's up. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another show, NWA Connie Corso's podcast. Today we have a guest, a very intelligent young man. He's staying on his square, and I really like that. This is brother Brandon Edmonds.
Yes,
We
sir.
call him Hecka around these parts.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Some folks know me as Hecka, some folks know me as Brandon. Whichever one, I'm all good for it.
Right. Brandon, introduce yourself to the people. Let them know about you.
Yeah, man. As you said, my name is Brandon. Hecka is my nickname, so to speak. Um, really, as far as my dog identity, I'm fairly new, to the dog world. Uh, as some people may know, if you don't know, Gypsy Stratton is, for the most part, responsible for my existence. As you can see, I actually have one of his shirts on. So, I give him as much praise as I possibly can. Obviously he's passed on, but without Gypsy, I don't know if I would even be on your platform right now. You know what I mean? I would still be doing dogs, but as far as the information that I'm going to disseminate on this platform today, it wouldn't be possible without Gypsy. So I gotta give him his just due, because he's pretty much responsible for me being able to get on here and speak the way I'm gonna speak.
Gotcha. And actually, Gypsy is probably responsible for me being here too,
Mm,
because my first ever show was with Gypsy
yes,
Stratton and Clyde
absolutely.
Thompson. Them the
Yeah.
guys who I did my first podcast with,
Oh yeah.
and I liked what they said, and a lot of times you can't put trainers together on
Yeah.
on the same
Yeah.
video, and but I wanted to set a tone with a couple of the strongest dudes I knew, because I didn't want them come in bullying. I said
Yeah.
put the two most strongest cats I know on there, and that's how I'm gonna start.
Yes,
So
for
yeah,
sure.
Gypsy is really a big part of my success in podcasting.
Yeah.
And before we move on, don't y'all forget about Miss Lori out there.
Yeah.
She could use somebody saying hi, checking in on her,
Yeah.
and she still had who would have the information like she would.
Right.
Only
No,
her.
Lori is still going strong. I still
Yep,
go out there every so often and check on her and help her,
yeah.
when I can. I need to get out there again soon. So Lori is still keeping the legacy going.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Where you from, brother?
Originally I'm from Columbia, South Carolina. I
Okay.
grew up in Columbia, South Carolina, born, raised till I was about 14 years old, moved to New York. Not New York City, New York State,
Okay.
place called Rockland County, New York, which is pretty much right outside of New York City.
Mhm.
Went to high school there, went to college in Jersey. So I'm pretty much a East Coast, raised on the East Coast, and then lived a few different places in my adult life after that. Now I'm currently in Chicago, Illinois.
Gotcha.
Yep.
When was your first knowledge of being interested in dogs?
Oh man, I've had dogs all my life. My mother was a dog lover. My mother and my father. But they weren't like super involved in the dog world. They just like dogs, so we always had dogs. So I picked that bug up from, I've had dogs for as long as I can remember. Just random dogs. You know what I mean? It would be a little cockapoo or, something, some kind of dog that my mother would get. But when I really, really kind of, I guess, came in tune with dogs was I was in high school and we had a Rottweiler, we had a Chinese Shar Pei, and we had a Cocker Spaniel. And those three dogs really molded my my deep interest in dogs. So after having those dogs, I knew at some point I wanted a whole bunch of land and a whole bunch of dogs. Well, a whole bunch of animals, period, but definitely dogs.
Mhm.
So that's where I am currently.
Okay.
Yep.
So you when did you discover Gypsy?
So Gypsy, that's a crazy how I bumped into Gypsy, man. So I just moved to Chicago a little over a year and a half ago, to the city of Chicago. But I lived in a place called Pembroke Township, Illinois, which Wayne Singleton lives out there as well.
Yep, Wayne. Yeah.
Yeah. So funny enough, I didn't know he lived out there until I moved to Chicago.
Mm.
So, but so yeah, so I lived in Pembroke Township for about 5 years, and when I first moved out there, it was just a random guy that knew I had a lot of dogs because he see me with the dogs all the time, and he just stopped one day and asked me like, "Man, yeah, you know the guy, Gypsy, around the corner that created the Canis Panther." Now I had heard of the Canis Panther, but didn't know a whole lot of information about it, but I knew of the Canis Panther.
Right.
But what caught my attention, he said around the corner. I'm like, what you mean around the corner? He's like, yeah, he lived, around. He's explaining it to me in country people terms, because
Mm-hmm.
I lived in the country. And
Mm-hmm.
country people terms is different than
Oh
city
yeah.
folks.
Yeah.
They around the corner this way, that way. And I'm like, okay, I'm familiar with what you're talking about. And it just so happened the way to Gypsy's house is a major street. So I used to pass his house all the time, going in and to and fro my house. But it never, and the sign is as big as day, Rock of Ages Kennel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And me, I'm thinking like, and especially at that time, I wasn't into protection training. I just had dogs because I love dogs. I had all the breeds that I wanted. I was just collecting all different kind of breeds because, I love the Borgles, I got Borgles. I love the Corsos, I got Corsos. I had all kind of dogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't into protection at that time. But it just never dawned on me to stop and see what the Rock of Ages kennel was about. I just passed and mind my business. So when he told me, like, yeah, it's right there, when you come around the curve, it's right there on the left-hand side. So immediately I knew where he was talking about. And I'm like, huh? He lived around the corner from me? So I'm trying to remember. It was probably that day. I
Mm.
got in the car and pulled into his yard and just started talking to him. And that's how the relationship started.
Mm-hmm.
But then I didn't immediately start protection training, so to speak, because I didn't know anything about protection. Like I didn't know anything about the protection world, didn't even know it was an industry, didn't know people actually got their dogs professionally trained to bite people, right? I
Mm-hmm.
just thought like most people, hey, I got big dogs, people are going to be scared of my dogs and my dogs are going to naturally protect me. I thought like most people, that's how they think, right?
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward, somebody else in the dog world had invited me out to a protection training session, which wasn't nothing but bite training, right? It wasn't nothing but bite work, right? So I'm like, all right, well, shoot, I got these big ass dogs. Let me see what this protection thing is about, right? So I went, and my first experience was the trainer. He's passed away at this point, so rest his soul. I'm not going to talk bad about him because he wasn't doing anything but an agitation session, right? It was really no training involved. He was just agitating dogs. The dog was tied up on a tree. He had me stand next to the dog, hold the leash as the dog was tied up on the tree, and he was agitating the dog, which is what you see most, what I would say novice trainers do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this wasn't a novice trainer. This was a you know, he knew what he was doing, but
Right.
he had other motives as to why he was doing it like that. So anyway, long story short, my dog ended up biting me, right?
Dang, okay.
So that was my first experience with protection training. So when I left that, I'm thinking like, this can't be how this goes. My dog is not supposed to bite me, right? Like this was my thought the whole time driving home. I'm like, this can't be how this is supposed to go, right?
All right.
So I went to Gypsy and started telling him, and immediately he knew who the trainer was, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing he did, he didn't feel sorry for me. He didn't no sympathy, no empathy or nothing.
Right.
He was like, so you mean to tell me you drive by me every day and you didn't come to me for training, but you went all the way to Chicago to him for training? He literally said to me, I'm hurt.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he said to me. And at that moment, I'm like, wow, why would he be hurt? We don't really know each other like that. But what I realized was he saw something in me that I didn't even see. Like I promise you, that's what, like, in order for him, a man of his stature, right, known around the world, right, for him to tell me that he was hurt because I went to someone else. Now, mind you, I didn't do it intentionally. That because again, I'm just, oh yeah, I'll go to the session, whatever. I didn't think nothing of it.
Mm-hmm.
But to him, he was like, you passed me every day and you never came to me. So that to me told me that for him, it wasn't about money. For him, it was about the art. And I appreciated that because he didn't really know me. And he told me, I'm hurt. Like I took that to heart. So from that day forth, guess who I was going to? Gypsy.
Yeah.
And that's literally how my relationship with Gypsy started.
Mm-hmm. He did really care about his art form because it'd be a
Yeah.
few times I'd be like, man, I see people kind of biting your style, Gypsy. You know what I mean? Oh no,
Yeah.
that's okay. That means they're getting what I'm preaching.
Yeah.
That's how
That's all
you
he
want.
wanted, man.
Yeah.
He wants the art of defense to uh be known. He wanted to keep it going. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? I honestly, because he would call me a lot, and I just moving and shaking, trying to pay the bills and do things, and you know what I mean. I couldn't get out to him as much as I wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew that he knew that his time was coming short.
Oh yeah.
So he was just trying to give as much as he could, before he left.
Yeah.
But that's what he wanted, man. Because man, if people only knew how scientific Gypsy was when it comes to this defense, man. Like people, like there's nobody else that I've seen, right? There's other people that do defense, like we spoke about Hans, right? There's a couple of other people that do
Yeah.
defense, on a high level that I will say on a high level.
Right.
But when it comes to how he tactically breaks everything down and the reason why he does everything, like it's just mind blowing. And all I'm trying to do is give the world what he gave to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, man, it's amazing,
Yeah.
and hopefully I can give some of that on this interview today.
Man, those conversations you had with Gypsies, brother.
Mhm.
I've had some with them.
Yeah,
Just not about dogs, just different things.
yeah,
Gold.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Gold.
yeah,
He'll
yeah.
surprise you every damn time.
Absolutely,
That's when you
one
thought he
hundred
was
percent,
done. Yeah.
one hundred
Yeah.
percent. So
Yeah.
he really became like a father, to me and
Mhm.
my family. You know what I mean? So my relationship with him is far deeper than dogs. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? That was just the conduit that brought us together.
Mhm.
But the admiration that I'll have for him for the rest of my life, man, because he gave me a skill that I can never go broke. Like he gave me something that will allow me to feed my family for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
So there's nothing anybody can say to me that will ever make me turn my back. I don't care how you feel about Gypsy.
Yeah.
That's your experience. That's not my experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's nothing nobody can say to me. And Gypsy has a lot of people that don't like him,
Oh yeah.
for various reasons.
Right.
But there's nothing nobody can say to me that will ever make me turn my back on the man that gave me the skill that allows me to be on your platform today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's go. Hey, let's go into this. So, when did you recognize that you
Mhm.
wanted to do protection training?
You know, when I started training with Gypsy initially, right, he was just really training my dogs, right? He was getting in front of my dogs and, doing what he does. And slowly but surely, he kind of put the bug in my ear, because if you speak to Gypsy, he's very metaphoric, right? He
Mhm.
he used a lot of metaphors, but it's like real life stuff that kind of makes you think, like, wow, like how do you how do you take this and put it together and make it make sense like that? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So long story short, I was always into training dogs, but just basic obedience. So for me, I knew I had to do something to kind of separate myself from the rest of the world that calls themselves dog breeders.
Mm-hmm.
So the protection training was another avenue for me to add to my resume to be able to one initially help me sell my dogs, right? And then just to pick up another skill because I'm like, if I'm gonna have these big dogs, then I might as well learn how to use them what they're made for.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, because of how infectious Gypsy is, like his passion for people, right? His passion for protecting the people,
Mm-hmm.
it rubbed off on me, right? Because for me, and I'm trying not to make it sound like I'm talking down on other people,
Right, right.
but the reality is this
Speak your
dog
truth, brother.
world, huh?
Speak your truth.
Yeah, yeah. You know, the reality is this dog world is very superficial. So because he had a real passion for what he called the church lady,
Mm-hmm.
and I look at my wife as the church lady, and if anybody has spoke to Gypsy, they know what the church lady is, right?
Mm-hmm.
The church lady is your grandmother, your mother, your auntie, right? He had a real passion for protecting the innocent and the vulnerable,
Right.
and I do too. So that for me is what really kind of drew me in and say like, man, I'm able to, and this kind of goes into the whole concept of all defense all the time, which we're going to get into in a moment.
Right.
This gives me an opportunity to help people in a way that I've never been able to help them before. Help people feel more safe, right? Especially when we're talking about places like Chicago and places like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, man, if you got a dog, you have another layer of protection that you can use. And I can help you do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's really what really drew me in to the protection side of it.
Gotcha. Hold up a second.
Yep.
Let me give a shout out to the chat. Hey guys, we appreciate all y'all in here. We're gonna do a Q&A at the end. Salute Vicente Moore, salute Doug, salute Roman A. Price, salute Therapy, Emotional Support Dog, salute everybody that's in the chat. Hit the like button.
I
And
can't see the chat, man.
you can't see it?
Nah. Oh
Oh,
no, I
okay.
see it now. My bad.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, y'all hit the like button and let's get it out here. All defense all the time, brother.
Yes, sir.
What does that mean?
So what it means is, so if we're really talking about the essence of protection, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, if we, I do my best to use words based on what they mean in the dictionary, right? Not what I want it to mean to feed my own personal narrative, right?
Right.
So if we look at the word protection, right, that literally means to defend, to protect something.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean to offend or to apprehend, right?
Mm-hmm.
It literally means to protect a perimeter, right? Whatever that perimeter is. The perimeter could be 6 feet around me. The perimeter could be my fence line at my house. The perimeter could be inside my house at the door. Whatever that perimeter is, to be in defense or to protect something means I have to defend it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what it means is teaching not only a dog, but the person that's handling the dog how to tactically use that dog to defend their personal space. That's on a basic level, that's what that means, right? But in the dog world, what do most people focus on? They are hyper focused on the dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything is about the dog, right? Which obviously that is a part of the equation. But not nearly enough people actually talk about, hey, how to handle this dog. We look at the sport world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we say that sport trainers or people that handle their dogs, you know, while doing sport is handling their dog. when in reality, they're really not handling their dog. What they're really doing is they do have a high level of obedience. So I don't want to take away from the art of what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But based on how they handle their dog during that event is not how they're going to handle their dog in real life. They're not going to drop the leash and where they're not supposed to by law. Let me clarify that, because they may do that because that's what they've been taught to do. But by law, you are not allowed to drop your leash and allow your dog to chase someone, right?
Right.
And I'm sure we'll get into that, a little bit deeper. But that's literally what defense means: learning how to handle your dog on a lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tactically use your dog to get you out of adverse situations. And ultimately, right? I'm sure you heard this term: the best bite is no bite.
Yeah.
Learn how to use my dog to get me out of adverse situations and theoretically not have to have my dog bite somebody. The end goal is not having your dog bite somebody,
It's
right?
prevention.
It's prevention.
Right.
So if my dog can save my life and it didn't have to bite somebody, I won. I
Mm-hmm.
don't need my dog to bite someone in order to feel like I won. Now, if it has to, it's prepared to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But see, what most people don't think about, because we're so barbaric in our thought process when it comes to these dogs, is the after effect of your dog biting somebody, right?
Right.
And you'll get these people that obviously are vigilantes, and they'll be like, "I'll deal with that after." Okay, that's you. But me as a trainer, I'm not going to go out here and tell somebody, let your dog go and bite somebody and deal with the after effects later, because most people don't have that kind of money to get a decent kind of lawyer to get them out that situation. So
Let me-
these are all the things that I'm thinking about when it comes to defense, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Sending your dog off.
Hmm.
Would you ever do that?
Would I do it?
Yeah. Or if so, what would the scenario be
That's what I was thinking about.
in
I,
order
I'm,
for you
I'm
to?
trying to think of a scenario where it would be effective for me to send my dog, right, 50,
Mhm.
60 meters away. The only way I would do that is if they had some kind of projectile, right? And
Mhm.
even then, it's still not the most effective thing to send your dog. Because if a person has a gun, right,
Mhm.
it ain't really much your dog gonna be able to do for you 100 meters away.
That's right.
That bullet is much faster than my dog,
Yeah.
right? The only thing my dog can really do is probably take the bullet for me if that person is that good of a shot, right?
Hmm.
But by the time you shoot my dog, I mean, how much time am I going to have to get away somewhere to where you can't get me with the other bullets, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So this for me, right? I think about all these things, right? So this is why I help people get their conceal and carry, right?
Hmm.
Because this is why my name is the force multiplier, right? There's multiple different layers when it comes to protection. I don't look at the dog as the only source of protection.
Hmm.
Most people treat protection training like it's the end all be all. If your dog is not a man stopper, then you don't have a protection dog. This is the mentality that most people have,
Hmm.
right? You don't need a man stopper in order for your dog to be effective. So, I mean, that would be the only situation that I would see fit to send my dog somewhere. And that's the only situation where you have legal right to send your dog. If someone has some type of physical force that can harm you from that far away,
Hmm.
that's the only time legally you have the right to literally let your dog go, right? It's like shooting a gun. It's
Hmm.
literally how the law looks at your dog is how the law looks at a gun, right?
Right.
If you're shooting somebody from 100 yards away, what is there to substantiate for you to shoot somebody that far away? What was the reason? How are they going to harm you from that far away? Right?
Right.
These are all the things that I think about when it comes to defense, because you are defending yourself proactively from having to go through legal situations
Hmm.
that, if you're clear minded, right, you can prevent yourself from having to go through.
Right.
That is a part of all defense all the time.
The legal aspect.
Prevention.
Yeah, yeah. You said something. You said it's a lot of focus on the dog and not
Yes.
enough focus on the handling.
Yes.
Explain that.
Yeah, so again, if we're using the sport world as the barometer for what protection should look like, which I mean, that's what it is. The sport world, because of its popularity, has become, the poster child of what protection is supposed to be, right? If you Google canine protection, right, or if you go on YouTube and type in personal protection, dog personal protection, what's going to come up? 99% of the time, it's going to be someone restraining a dog, right? And then after about 5 seconds of building the frustration in the dog, they're letting that dog go to go chase somebody 100 meters down the field,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's what you're going to get 99% of the time. So if someone that doesn't really understand what real protection is about, they see that model, this is what they're thinking their dog should do, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, what was the question? I lost my train of thought.
It was handling
Oh, handling.
versus the
Yes.
focus on dogs.
So, handling a dog is a part of tactical training, right? It's literally similar to any other type of tactical training or martial art training that you would take, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's close quarter combat because there's leash laws that
Mm-hmm.
we're supposed to be following, right?
Right.
Which means your dog should be on a leash, especially if you're in public. Now, if you're in your own personal space, that's something different. If you're in your yard, if you're in your house, obviously your dog doesn't have to be on a leash. But if you're in public, right, there's really nothing to substantiate why your dog was off a leash because it's against the law, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So handling of a dog is not just simply restraining a dog and then as it builds its frustration, you let it go and then go chase it to go gather it, right? If you think about that concept in itself, if you have to go gather your dog, you're going towards the danger. Is it the point to get away from the danger or
Yeah.
make the danger go away from you?
Right.
So why would I release my dog and then go towards the danger to go get it? It makes no logical sense,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is what you see in the sport world. Now, again, I don't want people to misunderstand what I'm saying because I know people get their panties in a bunch when you start talking about sport, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is not me taking away from the artistry of sport because I understand why they do that on the sport field. But the problem is a lot of these so-called these universal trainers where they call themselves protection trainers, but they're really sport trainers, right? They're
Yep.
teaching
Okay.
tactics of sport and calling it personal protection.
Okay. Yeah. That was my next question.
Yes.
Where is the line at in this? So you just said it. So you got it. You got guys who say we're protection dog trainers
Right.
that train in a sports style.
Yes.
That's your gripe, correct?
Say that again.
And that's kind of like your pet peeve, your gripe or whatever.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That is my, and again, I don't want people to think I don't like sport. I admire sport. I admire the dedication.
Yeah.
I admire the consistency that you have to have. I admire the competitive spirit. I admire it all, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is not personal protection.
Yeah.
It is not,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that is my only goal is to separate the two. Now, obviously, there's some similarities, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's two different worlds, right? It's like street fighting and MMA, right? Even though MMA is still, you know, it's pretty like if an MMA fighter gets into a street fight, 9 times out of 10 he's going to win.
Yeah.
But there's rules to there's things that you can't do in the ring that on the street there are no rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't need a clean dog on the street. I don't need a dog to bite perfectly in the pocket, right? I don't need a dog on the street to do all these perfect things that they're looking for on the sport field because they are getting judged. They're getting points taken away for every little thing that they're not doing correctly based on the rules of the sport, right?
Right.
There is no rules in the street.
Yeah.
So I want a dirty dog
Yeah.
because you know why that bad guy is dirty.
Yeah, yeah. You want a practical dog. You don't want a
I want a
dog.
practical dog,
Yeah,
right?
focus healing on you. You don't need all that. Yeah.
If my dog is looking at me as the bad guy is coming, I'm in trouble.
Right, right, right. Yeah.
If
Got.
my dog is right next to me as the person is within my space, I'm in trouble
Mm-hmm.
because I'm already allowing the bad guy to get into my space to harm me. I need my dog out at the end of that lead, doing his best to prevent that person from being able to get to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is what protection is about. Prevention. It is not about biting. Sport is about biting. Is about high level obedience, which I enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about biting. Protection is about having control over your dog, so you still need obedience, and it's about fighting.
Mm.
And being in a fight doesn't necessarily mean you're biting.
Right, right. Well, explain that. Go deeper. Why doesn't necessarily doesn't mean you're biting?
Well, because your dog can be fighting, right? So let's say, for an example, boxing. You're in the ring, so you're in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
But just because you're in the ring doesn't necessarily mean you're always throwing punches.
That's correct. Yeah.
You see what I mean? So you're engaged in the fight, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be biting in order to be engaged in the fight,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right, right,
So on a basic level, that's what that means, right?
right.
So again, ultimately my goal for the regular everyday people, I'm not talking about these high level, neurotic people that get so caught up in their dog biting that if their dog doesn't get a bite that day, they're gonna relapse and need to go to rehab or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these people are more addicted to the bite than their dogs are,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for me, ultimately my goal is for one to get the people that I train and their dogs out of there safely, right?
Mm-hmm.
As close to physical health as they were before they got into that situation, right?
Right, right.
The next thing is to protect them legally, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, if your dog can protect you without having to bite somebody, you won three ways, right? Obviously, you prevented the person from harming you. You won. You prevented any type of legal ramifications of that person being able to sue you. Whether it has merit or not, doesn't matter. Because if they sue you, you still got to go to court and you still got to pay for a lawyer, right? So it's still costing you money,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if my dog doesn't bite you, what do you have? It just ran your bitch ass up out of there.
Yeah, yeah,
you see what
exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Right, right. Yeah.
So, you win in so many different ways when you think with your brain,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not, I'm going to say with your mouth, meaning, hey, I got to have something in my mouth in order to feel like, my dog is doing something. You see what I'm saying? So,
Right, right,
yeah, so hopefully that answered the question.
right. You said a church lady.
Yeah.
Um, what kind of dogs do you suggest for her, or do you
Yeah.
train the dog she has, or
Yes. I
how's it
suggest
normally
the
work?
dog that she has.
Okay.
That's the
Right.
dog we're going to start with. Now, if I'm being honest and professionally responsible, does that mean every dog is going to perform at the level that I would prefer for a dog? No, not
Mm-hmm.
at all. Right. But the way I look at it like this, right? Like, for an example, I have a German Shepherd Husky mix here for a board and train, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this dog is like neurotic, has all kind of nerve issues. It's scared of his own shadow, right? So the lady, as I'm talking to her, trying to see what she wants out of this dog, she says, "Yeah, and after we do the obedience, I want her to be able to protect me." I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, how much time and money are you willing to invest in your dog?" See, this is me actually trying to deter her from wanting protection with this dog because I know it's probably going to take this dog 3 years
Yeah.
to get to a basic level of not being scared of his own shadow.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I know this, right? So I said, this is literally what I said to her. I said, okay, well, I mean, we can do that. But how much money and time are you willing to invest in this particular dog to get her to be a protection dog? because it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of money, right? And
Mhm.
you can see her eyes kind of like, I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, think about it. She's scared of everything that she sees, right? So if you want her to protect her, if you want her to protect you, then we have to get her to stop being scared of everything. We have to get her to stop thinking that everything in the world is out to harm her,
Mhm.
right? That's the first step.
Right, right.
So then I said, hey, look, if you really want to do protection, what I would really recommend for you is getting another dog, right? So we can still train this dog, right? Because the dog needs training, right? But if you really want a real protection dog, the best thing for you to do is not get rid of this dog, but add another dog into the equation and that be your protection dog.
Right,
You see what I mean?
right.
But if she would have told me, like, hey, look, I understand this is not the best dog in the world, but this is the dog that I have, right?
Mhm.
What does it look like to be able to get some level of protection from this dog, even if it's just a bark, right? Then we can have that conversation. And I've had that conversations with people and have trained people with dogs similar to this, right? I have trained their dog to a level that that was the best that particular dog could do, right? So if I had to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, it may only be a 3 or 4. But guess what? It was a -0 before.
That's right.
You
Yeah,
see what I'm saying?
right.
So is it a 10? No. Is it better than what it was before? Yes. Which
Mhm.
means if it's better than what it was before, it increases your probability of getting out of an adverse situation more, as opposed to before. I'll put it to you like this. If I can get that dog to at least bark at the end of the lead, as opposed to before when it was running away, we won.
Mm.
Because now you have another layer of protection that at the very least, if that dog doesn't bite anybody, is going to give you more time to do the next thing, which is grab your second level of protection, which preferably will be a gun, which is why I help people get their conceal and carry.
Mm. Okay.
You see what I'm,
So
so
you
for
put
me it's
layers on it.
layers.
Yeah, okay. I got you. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
really, ultimately, what I'm looking for that dog to do is not bite, is to give that person more time to do the next thing, whatever that next thing be. Pull your phone out, call the police, pull your keys out, get in the car, pull your keys out, get in the house, right? Whatever that next thing be is, your dog's first job is to give you more time to get over the initial shock of the situation,
Mhm.
right? Get some clarity. We talk about clarity in dogs a lot, but we, again, talking about the handler, we don't put pressure on handlers to make sure that they have clarity, right?
Right.
So these are the things when we talk about the concept of all defense all the time. This is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the mentality of the dog. Oh, you're putting that dog in defense. Oh, it's going to be a defensive biter. It's going to be a fear. That's not what I'm talking about. That's what you're talking about because you only have the, not you specifically, I'm
Yeah,
just
I know.
saying in
Yeah.
general,
Right.
because most people only have the capability of thinking about the dog. They're not thinking about the human because for them, it's not about the the holistic approach to protection. It's
Mhm.
only about the dog.
Mhm. Mhm.
You see what I'm
Right. I know Gypsy, he used to be against the I ain't gonna say against the back tie, but he would clarify that the back tie was used as a safety measure
Yeah.
and how important it was for the
Yeah.
dog to feel the handler
Yes.
behind him. What kind of
That's
tips do you teach, especially females
yeah.
that might have Corso, for instance,
Yeah.
a big dog?
Yeah.
What do you teach to make that dog not drag somebody
Mhm.
into a bite?
Well, one, the dog has to have a basic level of obedience before we really start any hardcore protection training,
Okay.
right? Which means the dog already has an understanding of what it means to follow, right? The owner, right? Or the handler, right?
Mhm.
Gypsy used to always say that, and I'm gonna misquote it, but hopefully you get the idea, right? A beast must have a master, right? I'm not saying it exactly how he says it, but that is the concept because he gets it out of the Bible, right? He uses a lot of concepts out of the Bible and, uses them in the protection world.
Right.
So a beast must have a master, right? A beast must respond to his master's call. So when you put that basic level of obedience on a dog, right? They already have some level of, okay, I'm performing for my handler. I'm not performing for my own satisfaction, which if you look in the sport world, a lot of those dogs are performing for their own satisfaction. The bite for them is a reward, right?
Mm.
That's on the sports side,
Right.
right? And you see it in how they train, right? They got to bite something. If they're not biting something, it's chaos for them, right? They send the dog to get a bite, and to get him off the bite, they have to give him another bite. You see what I'm? Which again, I understand why they do it in the sport world, but what would that look like for my 65-year-old grandmother or auntie?
Right.
That would be
Right.
crazy. Me saying, "Hey, look, you got to hold this bite wedge because when you call your dog off your bite, this 100-pound dog is going to be running to you as fast as it can to come get this bite, and you got to hold it right here perfectly because if you move it, that's your ass, Mr. Postman. Your dog is going to be
Yeah.
biting you."
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You see why the sport world doesn't work for regular everyday people?
Yeah. And then just getting the dog off the release. They don't. A lot of them got bad releases, brother.
Well, man, I'm doing my best to try to be civil and not talk about the sport world because again, I have a affinity for it. I have an appreciation for it. But the reality is, man, when it comes to protection training, a lot of sport training is bad training
Yeah.
because the average everyday person cannot handle the intensity of a lot of those dogs.
Right.
Those
Right.
dogs are intense dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those dogs are not meant to be in the average everyday person hand. And unfortunately, in the dog world, we treat protection as if it's only meant for the elite. And that is so far from reality. Everybody deserves protection. And this is what defense allows us to do, right? Because every dog has fight or flight.
Right.
So what I've been taught to do by a master at it is be able to read a dog and be able to teach that dog that running away is not okay and encourage them in the fight. Encourage them to build the confidence to say, you know what? I'm not scared of that person, right? That person is scared of me. And over time, keep building that confidence, right? Every dog has fight or flight. Not every dog has a high prey drive.
True. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So if we only train the dogs with high prey drive, how are we actually serving the people that need it? We're only serving the elitists. I don't want to be an elitist when it comes to protection, right? I
Right.
want to serve the people. I want to help the church lady, my grandmother, right? That just got a dog, right? And I missed out. A lot of my animal love come from my grandmother as well, because she always had dogs, which is
Right.
probably what now that I'm putting it together is probably where my mother got it from. You
Right.
see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about my grandmother that just had the neighborhood dog. I think it was a German Shepherd and something else mixed. That was just a dog, right? It wasn't. It didn't have all this goddamn, specific bloodlines and all of this stuff that we look for. You know, it was just a dog.
Right.
But
Right.
that doesn't disqualify that dog from being able to do what it's capable of doing.
Right. Now you hear people say a defensive. You tapped in on this for a minute.
Yep.
You said a defensive. They say a defensive dog is biting out of fear. What
Yes.
is your thoughts on that?
It's true and false.
Okay.
It's true and false, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there's some truth to it because there are dogs that fear bite, right? But that is a dog that has not been shown the proper picture of what a fight is supposed to be. That is just a dog that has resorted to the only thing I can do right now is bite you to get away from me. That's the only thing I can do. right? Because all else has failed, right? Then you have a dog that's properly trained in defense that was not abused to bite, right? Which I'm gonna
Mm,
be real with you, a lot of these folks, right? Which is why defense has such a bad name.
mm.
Which is why the trainer that I went to had my dog bite me because essentially what he was doing was beating my dog into biting.
Yeah.
That's essentially what he was doing,
Right. Yeah.
right?
You gonna bite over else? Yeah.
You're gonna bite right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's what most folks that do agitation that call themselves a trainer, they are so hyper focused on getting the dog to bite as fast as possible. They will do, I'm telling you, man, some of the stuff that I've heard and seen people do to get dogs to bite, I'm like, yo, if I gotta do that, I'm done. I'm not training no dogs no more. If I gotta use a cattle prod to get a dog to bite,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You see, there's certain levels that I'm just not willing to go to.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's not worth it because
Right.
that's how you create fear biters. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Dangerous dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not a protection dog. You're creating a true liability. Now, all dogs that are quote unquote protection dogs are a liability to some extent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you got a dog that will bite, then it's a liability, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's levels to it, right? And there's certain levels that I'm not willing to go to get a
Right.
dog to bite. I'd rather take if you use, and I'm saying you in general again, if a
Mm-hmm.
trainer uses a cattle prod to get a dog to bite after 2 sessions, right? Okay, yeah, you got that dog to bite. You got it to bite pretty fast because people's, they get an erections off of dogs biting, right? Which is why I prefer to train women. I really don't like training men. I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'll explain that in a minute.
Egos, bro. Ego.
Yes,
Yeah.
most men, they only want to see their dog bite. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about the art and the tactics of protection. They just want to see their dog bite.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, man, I don't do bite work.
Right.
I train protection.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when women come to me, it's because they are really concerned and they really have a fear for their life. It's not a sport for them,
Mm-hmm.
it's real life.
Right.
So I'd rather take a year if that person is willing to invest in that dog to get that dog to bite than get that dog to bite in 2 or 3 sessions and have to do some crazy stuff just to get it to bite.
Right. I remember Gypsy. I did an interview with him. And by the way, everybody, I got a lot of content on Gypsy. Like I say, he's who I started with podcasting. He said he won't even train boyfriends. That's what he said.
Yeah, yeah.
He don't train no boyfriend because you don't know if you ain't married to him. I don't know if you're gonna be with him down in
Yeah,
the yeah. So
absolutely,
yeah,
1,000%, one
right.
thousand percent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, the church lady for me, that's what really has my heart. Because let's be real, who are the most vulnerable? Women and children.
Women, yeah.
You
Yeah.
got a bunch of dumb men out here that think they can handle everything. You ain't never trained in no kind of tactical fighting or nothing,
Mhm.
but you so tough that you think you can beat everybody, and that's how most men think.
That's true. That's true.
So I don't have the energy and I don't have the patience and I don't have the temperament to deal with dumb people.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
most men, when it comes to these dogs, are just dumb. I'm just being honest.
I feel you. I feel you. Jay Diz in the house. Salute, brother. CT's touch horses and dogs. Let's see what he say here, brother. The best military dogs that's ever lived bid apart 3 different handlers and a bunch of his own unit. Them dogs ain't safe.
Not at all. If people knew how many police dogs and sport dogs, because essentially they're the same, bite the handler, you would be flabbergasted.
Mm, mm,
Because again, the dog is not working for the handler. The dog is working for itself. So if you're the person that's stopping that dog from going to get what it wants to get, guess what's going to happen? It's going to turn around and bite you because now you have become a conflict between where that dog is and where it wants to be.
mm. Yeah.
But see, when you train a dog in defense, you won't have that problem
Gotcha.
because the dog understands that it's working for someone, not for itself.
Gotcha. You got a website they asking, they want to put it up in the chat. Doug is asking, do you got a website or anything?
Man, I don't have a website. I have my social media.
Okay. Brandon Edmonds.
Yeah, well, that's Facebook. Well, actually, I would prefer people to follow my business page on Facebook, which is the Force Multiplier, and Force with the number 4, not the letter F.
Yeah.
So yeah, so if you search the Force Multiplier with the number 4, right? So the Force number 4 multiplier on all social media platforms, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, then my profile will come up.
Okay. Yeah, Doug, you could put his YouTube channel in here and I'll tag it at the end and everything. CT's Touch Horse and Dog Salute, bro. Clyde is in the house. Brandon, let me ask you this. You know, we in that Facebook group, Protection Dogs, we see a lot of different shit.
Yeah.
Explain the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Defense versus prey.
Yeah.
Pros, cons, each.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. Every dog has some prey. It's a dog. It's a predatory animal, right?
Mm-hmm.
The question is, how much prey drive does it have, right? So when you see a lot of those sport dogs, they have excessive prey drive, right? So for me, I don't like anything excessive. Nothing. I don't even like excessive defense driving a dog, right? Because then you get dogs that essentially are anxious about everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I don't like an excessively defensive dog. I don't like an excessively prey-driven dog. Because with that excessive behavior it comes with a neuroticism that is a fucking headache to deal with. You see what I'm saying? And that's an unbalanced dog. So for me, I look for a dog that's about 60-40, right? Ideally.
Right.
60 defense minded, 40% prey drive. Because you do need both, right? You do need both. And that's a misconception that a lot of people, you know, specifically when I'm speaking, they think that all I want is a defensive dog. No, I just don't want an excessively prey-driven dog.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I understand those dogs are not meant to be in a regular person, everyday lifestyle. And as much of a dog man as I am, dogs do not dictate my life. I have other things that I do to make money. So I don't just sit around and cater to a dog because it's so excessively prey driven. I have to do all of these things to make sure that I keep this dog engaged at all times. Because if not, it's going to tear my goddamn house up.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So to answer your questions, there's benefits to both because obviously the prey drive is needed because that gives the dog the natural propensity to move forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what prey drive is, moving forward. It locks in on something and it wants to go towards it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And defense, it has its benefits because as opposed to a dog that is excessively prey driven, right, where it's no longer working for the person that it's handling the dog, it's only working to put its mouth on something.
Mm-hmm.
That is not protection, right?
Right.
That is just a dog that wants to bite. Now, what sport people do very well is they make those dogs look good, right? So that excessive drive to bite, they put a whole bunch of obedience around that, right? Which telling a dog to bite is nothing but high level obedience. It's no different than telling a dog to sit. It's no different than putting a dog in a focus heel. It's all the same. It's obedience.
Mm-hmm.
So when you give the dog the command to bite, it's no different than giving a dog the command to go in the down position, right? The
Right.
concept is all the same. But see, for me, the benefit with having a dog that's defensive minded, right? And again, when I say defensive minded, I'm saying 60-40. 60% defense, 40% prey, right? And I'm talking about the percentages of the genetics, the natural genetics of the dog that I look for my personal protection dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is, again, I'm explaining the dog that I look for. this is not the dog that comes to me most of the time that people want protection training with, right?
Mm.
You see what I mean? There's a difference,
Right.
right? And that's another thing that happens in this conversation. Dog people get so caught up in what they want, they forget that it's not about them. Protection is supposed to be about the people.
Facts.
You see what I'm saying?
Facts. Yeah.
And that's where a lot of this confrontation comes in, and that's where a lot of the miscommunication comes in when you hear me speaking to these people on these, on these in these groups. It's like, man, get out of your own ass for a second. Isn't protection? Aren't you a trainer? So why are you talking about your dog? I don't care about your dog. Let's talk about the dogs that are out there in the world that the regular everyday person have. They don't have a Malinois. You know how many times I've seen a Malinois out here on the street in Chicago?
Probably none, hardly.
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just see regular dogs. I might see Corsos because those are
They
fairly
popular.
popular,
Yeah.
obviously in the black community, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
see pit bulls. I see presses. I
Mm-hmm.
see nobody with a Malinois. But all of these so-called high-level trainers, all they have is Malinois. So to me, it's like, well, shit, if you can only train one breed of dog, are you really a trainer?
Mm.
So for me, it's about training the dog in front of me, not the dog that I want in front of me.
Right. Right.
And that's a big problem in the dog world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People only want to train the dog that's already 80% there.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So, I don't know if I answered your question, man. I go off on
You
tangents
did, but
sometimes.
go off. Yeah, go off because hey, they're here for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Would you ever buy a already done protection dog? Or would you advise that for anybody?
No. The reason why is because if you see, okay, here's the reality. Again, you got to remember, here's another thing that I picked up from Gypsy, right? The pet protector, right? If you break that word down, what does that mean? It's a pet that can protect,
Mm-hmm.
not a protector that's trying to be a pet.
Mm-hmm.
It's two different things, right? A lot of these sport dogs, right, are protectors that's trying to be pets.
Mm.
What most of these people don't tell you, the chaos behind the scene. They only show you the highlights on social media. The
Mm-hmm.
dog flying in the air inviting somebody. They don't tell you how many times that dog has bitten them. They don't tell you how many cages that dog has tore up. They don't tell you how many doors that dog has tore up. They don't tell you none of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Real neurotic motherfuckers. God, dog.
Oh my God. Have you ever been around a Malinois?
No, but I've heard about them. Yeah.
Oh my Lord, have
Yeah.
mercy. Whew, boy. But anyway, but I get it because that same neurotic behavior is what looks so good on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it, but I can't put that dog in my wife's hands.
No. Uh-uh.
I can't put that dog in my grandmother's hands. That is not the dog for the average everyday person that just want to get up, go to work every day, come home, and have a dog that's going to make them feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally a full-time job dealing with these Malinois. It's a
Yep.
full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
But see, this is the stuff that they're in the sport world not telling people, right? They're romanticizing the idea of having this dog that does all these amazing things, but they're not giving the other side of it.
Right. Right.
So to answer your question, no. The reason why is because the way I train, right? The way I train is your dog is working for you. This is why we don't use the back tie, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to feel that dog. That dog has to feel you, right? It
Right.
can't be a dead end for the dog where it's just really what the back tie. And again, man, I almost get a headache thinking about some of the stuff that I see people do, and they're calling it protection. The only time I'll say this, because I don't want to say never, right? The only time you'll see me use a back tie is if I'm in a situation where I just don't feel safe. And if I don't feel safe, 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to train the dog.
Mm.
So is a very high probability you'll never see me use a back tie. Because if a dog is that big and the person that has the dog can't physically handle that dog, then motherfucker, we need to be doing obedience. Why am I teaching your dog to bite? If your dog has no mindfulness of you, right? Which means you're not even strong enough to handle your big ass dog. So if your dog pulls you on the ground to try to come get to me, then why am I teaching that dog to bite? Why am I agitating that dog? Because then when you get on the street, guess what it's going to do? As soon as it sees something that it wants to bite, it's pulling your dumb ass down the street.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So that's why I said, for me, I don't even do or start protection training unless it has a basic level of obedience, meaning the dog comes to you when you call it, the dog sits when you tell it to sit without using a treat or without using a tug toy or a bite pillow, right? If your dog doesn't do those basic things without using some type of external motivation outside of, hey, I'm doing this because I love you, right? And there's nothing wrong with using those things to create that relationship. But if you have to use those things all the time to get your dog to perform, we got a problem.
When are you removing the treat from your program?
So,
From your dog?
okay, with obedience or protection training?
Obedience.
So obedience, it really depends on the dog, right? Now, if a dog is a puppy, I really don't even use treats, technically speaking.
Really?
What I use is kibble.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You see what I mean? So that technically for me is the treat because I got to feed the dog anyway. So what that allows me to do is, one, create that bond with the dog and get that dog to understand everything good comes from my hands. So as a puppy, right, I use a lot of treats, which again is really nothing but the dog's kibble. It's the food that I'm going to feed it anyway, right? So essentially what I'm doing is making the dog work for the food. And by default, by doing that, we call it imprinting, right? I'm imprinting the dog. So as a puppy, I do a lot of that because especially the higher you go in obedience, it becomes more stressful for a dog, right? Because we're asking a dog to do a lot of stuff that is just naturally not made to do, right? Which again is why they love Malinois, because they're very smart dogs and they have such high drive, they're willing to do these supernatural things. Most dogs don't have that kind of drive. So as a puppy, I use a lot of kibble, AKA treats. If it's a rehabilitation program, right, where I'm doing what I call behavioral, a lot of people use behavior modification. I call it behavioral management, right? Because essentially, especially if you have a dog and an exceptionally neurotic dog, you know, what we call a nervy dog, all you're really doing is managing that dog. That dog's genetics are always going to be that dog's genetics. So you're never going to change the genetics. All you can do is manage the environment around that dog. So, you know, behavior modification is a, you know, a buzzword in the protection or in the obedience world, but you know, I call it behavioral management, right? I'm teaching the person how to manage this unstable dog. So with that kind of dog, because it's already scared of the world, right? I use the least amount of aversion tools as possible, right? And aversion tools would be a choke chain, a leash. A leash is an aversion tool, right? Anything that we put on a dog to restrain it from doing what it wants to do is an aversion tool. So I just do my best with the dog in front of me and make an assessment to say, okay, how much treats do I need to use with this dog compared to, okay, this dog doesn't need as much treats, but I can put a little bit more pressure on this dog to do what it all depends on the dog. So it's really no specific answer to that. It just really depends on the dog. But with puppies, I will use a lot of kibble.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hold up 1 second. Bred to Perfection with Kenny Troiano. What's up, guys? Listening in from Tombstone, Arizona. brother. I hope you make it home all right. I seen you had some trouble getting home. Brandon, I don't know if you know him, but that's
Who's that?
Kenny. He's a regular guest on our show, and we was talking about bloodlines earlier. He's really one to watch on that.
Okay.
Uh,
What's the name again?
Bred to Perfection with Kenny Toronto.
Okay.
We got plenty of shows together. Javier Noriega. What's up, Javier? Had a neighbor with 2 military trained German shepherds. Seeing them pin a stranger without biting was amazing. Okay.
Yeah, that's called
Yeah.
a barking hole.
Okay. Um, one thing I wanted to ask you about, why I see a lot about. Well, first, let me say this.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons I started looking into guys like you, because I would talk with Clyde with CT's Touch Horses and Dogs, and he
Mm-hmm.
started, pulling my coattail there. He said, "Watch this dog." He said, "Look at
Yeah.
this video. Watch this dog get the sleeve and run off with it." He
Yeah.
said, "Man, they faking, bro." And I just started.
Yeah.
And I just started paying attention, and then I'm like, man, I started putting it together. So a lot of that is theatrics,
Mm-hmm.
as we know now. But the platform, I see this platform. They raise them up.
Yeah.
They put the walls beside side them.
Yeah.
What is all this for, bro? What is
Okay.
their intentions, and
Yeah.
what is your thoughts on it?
So is a couple of things why they use the platform. They use the platform to make it easier for them to do agitation work. So they're bringing the dog up to their level, right? As opposed to them having to be down at the dog's level.
Gotcha.
So elevating the dog just naturally makes it easier to do the hand work, all the shit you see them do, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is based on what they say, right? It limits the dog ability to be to have aversion, right? Or be distracted because they're in this box. So the only thing that they can do is be right there in front of you and deal with what's in front of them, right? Which, if the only intent is to train the dog, then it makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
right? But see, my problem with these kind of tools, similar to the back tie, because if you look at most people when they put a dog on a back tie, the dog is actually restrained by the tree or whatever back tie that they have the dog chained up to. They
Mm-hmm.
have the owner or the handler of the dog standing next to the dog looking like a dummy with a loose leash,
Yeah.
just standing there saying, "Good dog."
Yeah.
What is the owner learning?
Right.
So that for me is the question that always comes. What is the owner learning? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is the handler learning while the dog, okay, cool. The dog is being agitated. It may be learning something. I'm not taking away from that, right? But what is the handler learning? The person that's responsible for this monster that you're creating.
Mm-hmm.
When that dog is in that box and you have the handler standing next to it, just good boy, oh, good girl, giving it a couple of pats on the butt, what is the owner learning?
Mm-hmm.
Not a goddamn thing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Right.
They're not learning how to tactically use this dog. They're only looking at you make a goddamn monster.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So these are the questions that I ask. It's like, yo, what? I mean, I get what you say it does for the dog, but what does it do for the handler? Why can't the handler and the dog learn at the same time? Why must we focus 100% on the dog first and then try to catch the handler up in the back end? So now you've already created a monster, right? Right? Because you've taught this dog how to bite in 2 weeks. The dog is biting, right? And you'll get a lot of sport trainers say, I don't want to put no obedience on my dog because it caps the drive of a dog. Who gives a fuck about capping the drive of a dog if you handing this dog to somebody, right? Because it already bites. You don't want to put any obedience on it, right? Because it's capping the drive of the dog. How is this dog that has this excessive drive to bite people? How is the handler going to control this dog if it gets into a situation where the dog wants to bite somebody? You ain't put no out on this dog. You expecting the handler that you really didn't teach how to effectively handle this dog go get this dog out of a bite? These are the things that I think about. This is what defense is about.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it's about protecting you and protecting the environment around you, meaning the people in your community as well. Because who wants a nuisance of a dog, right, in a yard that has no obedience? Because in this particular phase of its training, it's only focused on drive, go get that bite, 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 go get that bite. I'm gonna say it 5 more times. Go get that bite, go get that bite, go get that bite, go get that bite.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, goddamn, can the motherfucker sit?
Yeah.
Does the motherfucker come to you when you call it?
All right.
If it goes get a bite, can you call it out the bite? No? Oh shit, you in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. CT said, I thought I had a potty mouth. Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
man.
man. Yeah. Yeah. So me and Clyde and Hecka was talking about them both doing a show together. They agreed to it. So sometime down the line, they'll be doing that together. That should be good.
Yeah.
Man, you focus on the family, you focus on the church lady. Hey man, and don't let me hey, if you need to say something, don't let me just rattle all these questions off at you.
No, it's all good, man.
Okay,
I
so
feed off the questions because I'm
okay,
telling you, my mind goes.
yeah,
So the questions actually help me compartmentalize what I'm thinking.
right. So and also chat, if you got questions, go ahead and start getting them in. I'm finna ask them one right now, but y'all start. Go ahead and putting them in there. Um, you focus on the family, you focus on the church lady.
Mm-hmm.
If someone was going to get into having these dogs, I guess my question is, what breeds do you recommend and why?
Yeah. So for me, for the average everyday person, right? If I have a blank slate, meaning that person comes to me without a dog, right? Which means I have the opportunity to choose a dog for them, right? My top dog is a Rottweiler, right?
Okay,
For me personally.
right.
Although I believe German Shepherds are the best all around dogs.
Mm,
So okay, if I had to just choose a dog and it wasn't biased based on the dogs that I like, I would probably choose a German Shepherd.
mm.
Then a Rottweiler, then a Cane Corso, and then maybe a Presa Canario. But Presa Canarios are so much all over the place right now. I don't even know if I want to touch a Presa Canario right now because it's just the Presa Canario community is chaos.
Oh, they don't know what they
Similar
do.
to the Corso
Corso,
community,
yeah, yeah. The Corso's crazy.
but
Shoot,
the Corso community is kind of starting to, level off.
yeah, yeah,
It's starting to get to that point. The Presa community just started with the shit. So, they're just all over the place, man. You got presses that look like Boribles, and you got presses that look like Corsos, and you got presses that look like, I don't know. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
They're all over the place.
yeah. I noticed that.
So, yeah, but I do a good presser, which I guess that's subjective. That'll probably be my fourth option on the list. Um, but yeah, that's probably how I would put that together.
Gotcha. Hey,
Yeah.
hey, check this out. Look who's in the house.
Hold on 1 second. Let me.
That's Mrs. Lori Berg Stratton.
Yeah.
Defense is all we have. Train your dogs to be defenders, not predators. All defense, all the time. What's up,
Yes,
Miss
ma'am.
Lori? Yes, ma'am. Good to see you.
She is the queen of the dragons.
Yeah, mother of dragons.
Yeah, yeah, mother
Yeah,
of dragons. Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of knowledge over there.
Oh yeah.
Miss Lori, you got to come on now. You got to come on here. We got to hear from you. Yeah. So, you breed Corsos, right?
Yeah, Corsos and Rottweilers. Mostly
Oh, I
Corsos,
didn't know
but
you do Rottweilers. Okay.
yeah, I don't do a whole lot of Rottweiler breedings. I'm really vamping that Rottweiler program up.
Mhm.
But yeah, those are the two breeds that I do.
Okay. Okay.
Mainly, I have some other things that I touch just for fun, but those are the two main breeds that I deal with.
Okay. What about that Corso? What kind of Corso is
Mhm.
the perfect Corso that you're breeding for?
Yeah, yeah. So for me, right, the Corso, it's a gift and a curse, right? Because the Corso, they want to love you, man. If you get a Corso on how it's supposed to be as far as temperament, they're like Velcro. They love you.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it's a good thing because obviously they love you. They're gonna perform for you because they love you,
They do.
right? You don't necessarily need a treat, right? Although that helps, right? But
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna work for you because they want to please you, right? Is biddability, right? Is the word we use in the dog world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things I love about the Corso. The other thing is they're natural, again, if they're bred properly, right, on how they were originally bred based off what I know, right? They really do naturally have that protection, that protection instinct, right?
Mm-hmm.
They tend to be very, what's the word? They're almost like a utility dog. They could be very, uh versatile in what you can use them for. I mean, you can use them on the farm. Like I had a Corso, man, and this was all natural. As a matter of fact, this was one of the dogs that I took down initially when I did that first training session.
Mm-hmm.
I had a Borble, and then I had my Corso Queen, which I had my wife handle her. Luckily, Queen was so smart, right, that Queen didn't bite my wife. But this Borble I had was a big ass dummy, and he ended up biting me. So
Oh
anyway,
man.
that's another conversation on Borbles. But yeah, man, that girl Queen, man, she set the standard for me as far as like, wow, this is what Corsos are. She was just so naturally smart and so naturally aware and so naturally nurturing. Like I'm telling you, it was almost like she was human.
Mm-hmm.
But that when I breed Corsos, that's what I breed for. I'm telling you, I had never done any protection work with this dog, never done any bite work, and I swear to you, when we went to that session, it was like she had been trained for months. Like she just took to it naturally. So
Mm.
she had the natural propensity to want to protect, right? She had the confidence, right? She had the self-awareness. She knew what to do. I had
Yeah.
never done any protect because remember, I didn't know anything about it. I just had
Mm-hmm.
dogs. But she was the one, that dog was like, wow. Now this is me being me being naive, like shit, if every dog is like this, then damn,
Yeah.
this is what I want.
Right.
But she really did it for me, man. In every sense, it's like a crackhead looking for that first hit. I've been looking for Queen. Every course
Everything.
that I
Yeah.
breed, I've been looking for Queen. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, that's for me. That's what the Corso does for me.
Gotcha.
Rottweilers are very similar, but Rottweilers also have that streak of selfishness
Mm-hmm.
that if you're not careful early on, you can get in trouble with Rottweilers, and Rottweilers can be very rank dominant.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the downfall with the Rottweiler, which is why I put them under the Shepherd because they can be very rank dominant dogs. But if you have an experienced handler that knows how to deal with that, right? Then the Rottweilers are at the top of that list.
Gotcha. Let me knock out this question.
Yep.
Vicente Moore, what's up, my brother? In your opinion, what is the difference between sport, personal protection, and working dogs?
Well, they're all working. They all fall under the umbrella of working dogs, right? Because they have an objective, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just levels to it, right? The truth is, again, and hopefully people are listening to me when I speak. A sport dog is a high level working dog because of the intensity of it, right? It's a very intense, especially at a high level in sport. That's a high level working dog. A protection dog is not necessarily a high level working dog, right? It's a pet first that can protect, right? So a personal protection dog in real life is not going to be going to bite sessions 4 or 5 times a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe twice a week at the most. And when I say bite sessions, I'm using the term that we use in the dog world to explain protection training, right? We call it bite work, which
Right.
I hate that term,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it puts such a dumb narrative on what protection is, right? It just literally it boils it down to a dog just biting,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't
But
focus
yeah,
on grips, do you? In any
no,
aspect? Okay.
no,
All right.
never. For what?
Yeah.
Okay. This is me trying to tame my brain so I don't
Mhm.
say something that sounds uh like I'm trying to shit on the sport world.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm gonna say what I want to say. I'm just trying to figure out how to be diplomatic in
Right.
saying it because I don't want to create enemies, right?
Yeah.
And again, I can be very petty,
Yeah.
and I'm trying not to be.
Mhm.
um,
I'm sure they in here lurking.
oh, come on, I know
Some of
they're
your
here.
fans.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. They'll never admit it,
Yeah.
right? But I know they're here. They
Hmm.
can't help themselves.
Hmm.
So, okay, grip work for the sport world, I get it because you're being judged on it, right?
Hmm.
You're being judged on is this dog in the pocket. You're being judged on if the dog is push biting or pull biting, right? You're being judged on all of that, right? Especially depending on the sport. Again, in real life, the person that's getting bit is not judging if the dog is pushing or pulling. The only thing they want is to get that motherfucking dog off of them.
Hmm.
A confident dog is going to put their entire mouth on you. Point blank, period. A
Hmm.
confident dog is going to put their entire mouth on you. And if you piss it off enough, it's really going to put his whole mouth on you and going to try to bite as hard as it possibly can.
Hmm.
That's just how it works. That's
Right.
what nature tells it to do.
Right.
So I don't have to teach my dog a push bite, right? I don't have to teach my dog a pocket bite. My dog is going to take the bite that it can get, and it's going to bite you, and it's going to bite you hard.
Hmm.
Point blank, period.
Hmm.
Because you done pissed it off to think, hold on, I'm trying not to curse as much.
It's all right. Too late, bro.
Yeah, so, the dog is saying, wait a minute, motherfucker, you see me here,
Yeah.
right? And you really think that I'm sweet like that? Oh, no, you got to get this work.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So that for me, man, is like I've never used a bite wedge. I've never used any of those conventional tools to get a dog with a full grip because I know that my dog right here, my Rottweiler, he's gonna put his full mouth on you if you piss him off.
Hmm.
I know it. I've seen him do it, and I've never taught him to do it. He
Hmm.
just does it
Hmm.
because that's what biology tells him to do. I'm trying to hurt you because you're trying to hurt me, right? Now, obviously, you have to have a confident dog. So I don't want people to miss, because I know people like to take stuff and run with it, right?
Hmm.
Especially, like you said, my fans, right? My
Yeah.
super fans out
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
right? They
Do we
like
need
to
to drop
take
the cash
stuff.
out?
Yeah, exactly. Right? They like to take the smallest thing and try to create a narrative out of it, something that I actually didn't say, right?
Hmm.
Obviously, it takes a confident dog, right? So for me personally, anytime I'm looking for a protection dog, the first thing I'm looking for is a dog that's confident. Because if the dog is confident, everything else is easy,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So I don't want people to think that I'm going out here looking for nerve bag dogs and turning them into protection dogs for me. When I'm talking about these dogs that may not necessarily be biologically equipped like we would like them to. I'm just talking about dogs that already exist when people come to me that they have. And I can't say, hey, your dog is shit, go get another dog, get rid of this dog. I can say that, but that would be stupid of me because these people love their dogs, their pets first. They're pet protectors, right? They don't, they like, unlike the sport world where it's a revolving door, where they're getting rid of dogs damn near every month and bringing new dogs in, right? It don't work like that in the real world. These people have these dogs and they love their dogs.
Hmm.
So I can make the suggestion like, hey, look, this is probably not the best dog for what you're asking it to do. We can train it, right?
Hmm.
And I'm going to be honest with a person and say, hey, look, again, on a scale of 1 to 10, your dog is at a -2. The best that I perceive this dog can be is a 4 at best.
Hmm.
At best. So don't expect anything more out of this dog. because I'm telling you, it's not capable of doing it. But we can make it better. And if you're okay with that, then I'm okay with that. Because every dog for me doesn't have to be a 10.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Doug has a question here. This is a good question. Can you train for both defender and sport? And would it be better to train for defense first before sport?
Yes, you can, but it takes a very rare dog to be able to do that because the
Mhm.
rules of engagement are different. So the things that you would train in defense goes totally against the things that you would train for in sport. A
Mhm.
lot of the things you train for in sport goes totally against the things that you would train for in defense. So it really takes a special dog to be able to do that. I'm talking about 1 out of 100, to be an effective protection dog and an effective, meaning a high level sport dog, right? You
Mhm.
can get dogs that kind of play the middle, right? They're average on one end and average on the other end, but they never like get a high level in sport because they're just mediocre, right?
Right.
But if you're talking about a high performing sport dog, then the things that you were training in defense is going to negate a lot of the stuff that they look for in sport,
Mm.
just from a training perspective. Now, every sport dog has the ability to be a protection dog because the baseline of what they're doing is what? Biting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, right? That is the end all be all of protection, right?
Mhm. Right.
Will the dog bite if you tell it to,
Right.
right? And do you have some obedience on this dog to when you tell it to stop biting, will it stop biting,
Right.
right? So and this is why the sport world and the protection world get so intermingled because in their mind it's like, well, my dog bit the person and I told it to bite. Okay, cool, but why is that dog biting that person? Is it truly biting because it wants to protect you, or is it biting because it gets the satisfaction out of biting? It's two different dogs. Now,
Mhm.
the sport world people don't care. They don't care that their dog gets the satisfaction from biting because for them, they're getting what they want, right? But
Mhm.
see, I don't want to put a dog in a regular person's hands that gets satisfaction out of biting for its own satisfaction.
Mhm.
I want the dog that's going to bite for the satisfaction of the handler. It's two different mindsets.
Mhm.
So hopefully that answered your question.
Right. Okay. Let me ask you this. You've been, I'm sure you done chopped it up with all kind of trainers and whatnot, man.
Hmm.
Um, and earlier I was alluding to sleeve happy dogs, like dogs that only really attack sleeves. Have you ever known a sport protection trainer that could get a dog to go uh at a person without the equipment?
Say that one more time.
Do you know any sport protection trainers who ever had the ability to still turn that dog on somebody with without equipment?
With all the bells and whistles, without
Yeah,
all the bells and
yeah,
whistles that they
right.
use,
Do you think
no.
that you okay? What'd you say?
I
No.
don't. I know a couple. I don't know a
Okay,
lot. I
okay,
know a couple that have the ability to, basically what it is agitation, right?
right.
And agitation is the baseline fundamental of defense training, right?
Hmm.
So, and this is why, again, you get a lot of folks, especially here in Chicago, because the style of training that I was taught was started here in Chicago, right? The
Hmm.
whole defense style training started in Chicago, right?
Right.
And then it spread from there. Um, Unfortunately, just like anything, just like and it happens in sport too, right? A lot of people get these concepts and don't get trained on it properly, right? And they go out there and do dumb shit and put a bad name on it, right? So
Mhm.
when people go out there and they agitate dogs and they are doing things that are not advantageous for the holistic approach to protection, they're only looking to get the dog to bite in the moment. That's when you begin to get dogs that become fear biters. that's when you break dogs because you're putting too much pressure on the dog, right? So there's very few trainers, period, that understand the art of agitating a dog, right? Which again is the very, it's like the lowest level of defense training, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because most sport trainers have not learned the art of agitating a dog, I would have to say no. There are some that I do know that can switch back and forth.
Right.
9 times out of 10, they started in defense. So they learned that first and then transitioned to the sport world.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen a trainer that started in sport and then learned the defense, because once you go sport, right, a lot of those guys, as we see in these groups, is like the concept of agitating a dog. They literally have no clue what that is. They have no clue of what it means to actually build a dog from scratch, because they already got a build. They already got motherfucker. They already got the dog, the Malinois, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
is already 60 to 70% there. So
Gotcha.
that's all they know how to train.
Right. Right.
So
Oh.
when they see my videos in this group, right, and you see the comments, this is why I troll them, because I know they have no clue of what they're looking at, because all they know is sport. So they think sport is the way you train protection dogs.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they know. And I
Mm-hmm.
get it. This is why I troll them. I can't take them serious because
Yeah.
I can't effectively debate someone that has no clue of what they're looking at.
Right.
So
Right.
I just troll them.
Yeah.
I just resorted to trolling them.
Well, yeah. Yeah. John Henry Clark said, uh,
I
I
only debate my equals.
by debate my equals, all
Yeah,
others I teach.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, let's go here. Great description of the Corso, saying it is a great utility dog. All
Yes.
right. What's up, Javier? Exotic Borbles, Jordan,
Yeah.
Cleveland. This is for you.
Okay.
What is his thoughts on the Borble? What are
My
your
thoughts on
thoughts?
the Borbal, a great looking dog.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love Borbals as far as the look. And I've had many Borbals.
Mm-hmm.
They are they're not dumb. They're not dumb. They are some, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm going to use the word stubborn, but it's not even really stubborn. It is some stubbornness in there, but they are just dogs that don't really care to, they have their own agenda. They're very similar to livestock guardian dogs,
Mm-hmm.
but not as much, not as they're especially the Borbal nowadays, man. I'm trying that because I know my man breeds Borbals and I'm familiar with his program. I'll put it to you like this, man. When you talk about protection training, if you notice, I didn't name the Borbal.
Mm. Yeah.
And I've had Borbals that I actually Gypsy has taken bites from one of my Borbals. Like if you
Yeah.
go on my page, you'll see, you got to scroll down a little bit, but he's taking bites from one of my Borbals, damn near 200-pound Borbal.
Phew.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, there's so many factors that for me that go into an effective protection dog. The Borbals nowadays, right? The Borbals that are just big, really, really Borbals are very similar to me. And I'm trying not to talk too bad about, because I know he's into Borbals. I'm just saying from a protection standpoint, it's not the dog. It's a reason why you don't see a whole lot of people use Borbals in protection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is the reason why they are
Think they
not
better
the
watch
easiest.
dogs, maybe.
Yeah, they could be estate guardians,
Yeah.
but as
Yeah.
far as like on a leash, close quarter protection,
Mm.
they're the hardest dogs to deal with as far as just training is concerned. It's a fight with them,
Mm-hmm.
and if I ain't got to fight with a dog, I don't want to. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Borbal. I love them. But when it comes to protection, I wouldn't. That's not the dog that I would say go get.
Okay, gotcha. Living a
Generally speaking, obviously there's always exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, no.
right, living a dream. Okay. CT's tell it like it is. The truth hurts. There's my brother's link, the Force Multiplier on YouTube. Y'all go check him out.
Yes, sir.
Lori Berg, Stratton. Sport is a game. Everybody is good. Come
Hmm.
on, you shake the hand of the person who your dog just bit or took down. A
Yeah,
personal protection is for real. No handshaking, no games. Yeah, I
exactly.
see that a lot. People petting on the dog, they agitating and things like that. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I'm
Yeah,
sure we're gonna get some pushback on this. So, so I'm pretty sure, and I welcome it. You know, if somebody who has a opposing opinion, come on, say what
yeah,
you got, and hopefully one day we can start putting it together and figuring out, is there some differences, is there some similarities in the training, but you would know better than anybody. You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, um, yeah, man. Do you got any closing remarks or benediction?
Um, Trainers, train the dog in front of you.
Okay,
Uh, the best bite is no bite.
gotcha.
These are words of Gypsy, not necessarily train the dog in front of you, but he would say that too.
Right.
The bite is no bite. Um, Trying to think of anything else that I can leave you with.
Hey, hold on one second, because these
Yep.
questions starting to roll back in. Hold on.
Okay.
So what's up, Roman? Roman is a Borble guy.
Okay.
He got some nice hog hunting Borbles too, boy.
So he sound like he got some actual working
Oh,
baubles.
bro, he sent me the videos. His health testing, all he like, dude, like serious.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So
yeah,
it sounds like he again when I talk about the borable, I'm talking about the mainstream borable world.
right. Yeah, and Jordan was telling me too that the Borble has, it's like the Corso, it has different versions within inside of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like kind of like we do.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
he says, so the Corso temperament is a lot like a Borble.
No, similar. A borable tends they're not Borobles tend not to be, in my experience. I don't know about his line of Borobles, but they tend to be more independent thinkers than Corsos.
Mm, okay.
And that's why it's so hard to train Borobles. Because they're like they don't they're okay. So a Corso wants to be with you 24/7 all the time. Like they just want to be up under you. The Borobles that I've had, I haven't had a Borable that has that clinginess like a Corso. And I've had shit, let me count in my head. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven Borobles.
Mm,
And none of them have been the dog like a Corso where they want to please you. Like Borobles, in my experience, don't have that at a high level like a Corso does.
mm, gotcha. Doug said, thanks. I want to protect her as first priority, and I also would like to title a dog. Javier Noriega has a question for you. How
Mhm.
does the average hunting dog rank as a defensive dog prior to defensive training?
The average hunting
Hunting
dog,
dog.
you would have to give me. I mean, if I had to answer that question based on how it's presented, hunting dogs are typically have a high prey drive. I mean, they have to be, to be a hunting dog. So, and then you got to go based on the breed. All hunting dogs aren't necessarily biting dogs. Some dogs are bay dogs. Some dogs are just scent dog. Like, so it really depends on the type of hunting dog we're talking about. Um, but here's the reality: when you train a dog in defense, it doesn't matter what it is. But if you're talking about sport, then it does matter what it is.
Mm.
So it really just depends on, where you're like, what are you looking to do with that dog? But as far as the average hunting dog, it's kind of hard for me to answer that question because there's so many different kind of hunting dogs and hunting drives. You know what I mean? Again, you got bird dogs, you got scent dogs, you got sound, like there's so many different hunting type dogs. You got bay dogs, you got cur dogs, like you got all these kind of hunting dogs. So, you
Mhm.
know, it's hard to really say.
Right, gotcha. What age should you start? Mine just hit 7 months. I guess I'm gonna take that as what
Mhm.
age you should start protection training.
Yeah. So ideally for me, I don't want to see a dog unless it's at the minimum 8, 9 months. At the minimum.
Mm,
Uh because at that age that's when they're starting to kind of come into their own. And you really have to be careful with that depending on the dog.
mhm.
Now there's exceptions to the rule where, this dog has the attitude, it has the confidence at 6 months. And you can start with it then, but that's rare.
Right.
Now sport, obviously you can start from 8 weeks. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You can
Right.
start damn near earlier than that with sport. But real protection, because of the pressure that's required to put on that dog,
Mhm.
I really don't want to touch a dog, as far as protection training is concerned, until it's like 8, 9 months minimum.
Gotcha.
That's minimum. If we're really talking ideally a year.
Okay, here we go. You ready, brother?
Yep.
All right. Puff. Shit, I
Yeah, I
just
think
got
that's
new
perfect
glasses.
K9.
Yeah, Pawfit Canine Services.
Mhm.
I am very familiar with bike sports and the different mindsets need to perform on a high level, and I train real life personal protection dogs as well.
Mhm.
I would love to discuss a few things.
Yeah, Parfik is one of those people I was telling you about where, I don't know if he started on the defense side,
Hmm.
but I know he's very knowledgeable on what defense is. I don't know to what level, but I know he's knowledgeable on defense training. Actually, Gypsy, which is part of the reason why I have a high level of respect for Parfik, because Gypsy used to talk about Parfik a lot. His name is Jeremy. If
Right.
that's I'm assuming that's the same Parfik. I'm looking at the logo. I think that's him. I can't really see it that
So
well.
he says this: no yelling match, solely and respectfully a healthy conversation about the topic.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
We've had, if this is Parfik that I think it is, yeah, we've had respectful conversations,
Okay.
in the past. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, what are you saying, Paul Feck? You want to chop it up with him in the future, or what? Are you trying to say something now? What we got? Infinite Canine, original Corsos with guard dogs, first hunters, second multi-purpose guardians. Exotic Borble. Has he ever had a situation that called his dog into action? We ain't
No,
trying to incriminate nobody, bro. No.
no, that's cool. I
Yeah,
no, I have not had a situation where I had to
right,
use my dog
yeah,
as of yet, but he's always ready if I have to.
right, right. Yeah.
I have clients that have had real life. Well, a client. I'm not going to say clients. I have a client that has had to use her dog in a real life situation,
Mhm.
and that dog did some real damage to that person, and she had to go to court.
Still had to go to court.
Oh, because once your dog bites somebody,
How
that's
you
just
doing?
so it's not necessarily you're trying to avoid court. What you're trying to do is mitigate the the ramifications after your dog bites somebody.
Hmm.
So her dog bit the person really bad, like messed him up. This person was trying to basically um, um, essentially kidnap her. She was trying to go in her house. He was running in the house behind her. Her dog was in the house. She was able to get the door open. Dog ran out, did what he did, and bit him up pretty bad. She had to go to court to prove that her dog was an actually trained protection dog and not just an aggressive dog. So she literally had to take a decoy to court, take the dog through, the typical. control exercises, down, sit, stay, have the dog bite the person in court, the decoy, call the dog out of the bite back to her to show that the dog had control.
Did I ask you this?
Hmm.
Would you ever do sports just for the hell of it?
Uh, possible. It's possible. It's
Mm-hmm.
possible. The problem that I have with sports, there's very little money involved, and there's so much time that you dedicate to it.
Yeah.
I just don't have that kind of time to dedicate to it as it
Yeah.
stands right now.
Right. Right.
Uh, I would do sport because of the notoriety that it gives you. So I wouldn't do sport necessarily for the love of sport. It would be purely business based, just to put me in front of more people.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's I'm a competitive person, but it has to be some type of financial reward for me.
gotcha. Because we got families
I got
and a lot
children,
of, and not a lot of time.
and I just it's not, it's way too much time dedication for me,
Right.
and like no money.
Right. Okay, y'all. We going in on 2 hours, so I'm about to wrap it up. Let's get these questions in for the good brother. We probably have to do this again. What would you look for as your top 2 or 3 characteristics in pups average age 10 weeks to
Hmm.
tell you it's going to be a good defensive dog, bitch? Thanks.
Well, it's not necessarily that, especially at 10 weeks. I'm not looking for a defensive mindset at 10 weeks. What I'm looking for is confidence.
Mhm,
That's the most important thing for me as far as temperament is concerned. I'm
mhm,
looking for confidence. I'm looking for the dog that if it hears a noise, it goes towards it. And even if it backs up, how fast does the dog recover?
mhm.
How fast, like if it backs up initially, how long does it take for it to be like, okay, what's going on there? I was a little unsure, but what's happening over there? You see what I'm saying? Um, the second thing that I'm looking for is really, to be honest with you, I mean, outside of physical, right? Obviously, I'm looking for phenotype, depending on the breed. There's a certain phenotype I'm looking for when it comes to Corsos, Rottweilers, right? Structure.
Mhm.
But as far as temperament, really, I'm looking for confidence.
Gotcha.
That's
Yeah.
that's really what I'm looking for.
Right. Right. Now, he must be somebody different, bro, because he says, no, we're North Carolina based.
Oh, okay.
My name is D'Angelo. We can hop on now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
well, we,
and also, yes, thank you, Lori. I'm sorry, I didn't say that. Gypsy's book, The Owner's Guide to Raising Your Pet Protector. You definitely want to reach out to Lori and get that because that's a good source for a lot of these questions as well.
hmm hmm yeah, D'Angelo, man, I ain't trying to be a hater, bro. We've been going about 2 hours. We're nearing the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Les Hecka, do you want to? Is there anything you want to ask him in the chat? Hecka, how do you want to handle this?
I mean, we can link on YouTube. Obviously, he has a YouTube channel, so we can do a live. Set up a different
Yeah.
time to do a live, and
Okay.
we can have a conversation.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah.
I'm
And
all for it, man. I'm all for having
yeah, we know.
intellectual.
Hey, we know you with the shit now.
Well, I mean, I'm for that
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
So
I feed off the person, man. If the
right.
person is respectful, you don't have to agree with me, right?
Right.
But you have to be respectful.
Right.
Once I start seeing that, you trying to take it to the other side, I go to that other side real quick and I don't come back.
Right. Yeah, and I just want to let him know we ain't trying to back out of it, but this kind of
Yeah.
his show, and we at the end of it. So we ain't running from no smoke. Not
Yeah.
saying that this what you bringing or whatnot, but
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah, yeah, man. So yeah, tell the people how to get in touch with you. Uh, anything else you want to know, and we'll have you back.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, man, all my social media, the force multiplier with the number 4. Um, reach out to me. We want to get on a live platform and have a conversation. We got a difference in, our training styles, and you want to debate, I'm all for it, man. I'm all
Mhm.
for it. Again, I just want to be respectful, and I want to get the information out to the people so they can use their own discernment
Yeah.
and decide which way they want to go based on who they felt make the most sense.
Yeah, you know what, and that's kind of like the whole basis of my show. I have people come on and say this, that, the information, and people sharing how they get to their end goals is important because the perspective, like, well,
Mhm.
because bro, like it might be something you never done before, but this man might say something that resonates with you, and it just makes sense. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So, and that's what it's about. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, brother. Well, man, I sure appreciate you coming on. I've been I think I asked you to come on a while ago, but I didn't. You might have missed it or something. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah, no, I think I missed that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was in the comment section somewhere, uh, and you probably missed it, but I'm looking forward to have you back. I know me, you, and Clyde gonna do something, so
Hmm.
that'll be good. Hold on. Boy, they ain't gonna let you get out of here, bro. Mind want to be with you 24/7. So had the puppies calls me the trip. They just want to love you and keep you safe. Paul Fett K9. Respect. I definitely understand. Enjoy y'all night. We can talk at another time on or off camera. Yeah, brother. If you got any questions for me, NWA Connie Corsos at Gmail. That's how you reach me. Yeah, I think that's it.
Absolutely, my man.
Yep. Y'all check this brother out. All right, Hecka, we appreciate you, brother.
Much love, man. I
Uh,
appreciate you.
yes, sir.
All
Wait,
right.
hold
We
on.
got another one.
Yeah. Oh, that's Miss Lori. We have to learn to acknowledge and show respect to and for each other. Hecka, keep spreading the message. All defense, all the time.
All
Peace.
defense all the time.
Way to end the show, Miss Lori.
Absolutely.
All right. Hold on, bro.